Hi, I'm Nishit. I'm the co-founder of NLP Conference with Angela Wells, who is in UK, and so she's unable to be joining today. I'm in Brazil right now, so I'm very excited. We have covered all over the world to join this webinar today. We've got people joining us from all the different places. And I'm very excited about today's webinar, specifically because limiting belief is such a crucial aspect of humans. I know sometimes it seems to be an NLP thing, but it isn't. It's beliefs is human, right? And often beliefs are so strong that they feel so real, and as if it becomes true, as if it's how it is, it's how the world is, it's how things are, it's how people are. Often people don't realize that that's just a belief. We decided to do this session, and thanks to Ashok agreed to take this session, I got really excited because I think this is one of the most fundamental things that can make a huge difference in a way that people achieve everything in life, the results, dreams, goals, everything. And who better to take the session than Ashok? I mean, he's an example of overcoming limiting beliefs. He's got an amazing story. I think big part of the whole NLP movement in India is driven by him. He was the person who got this Unite brand in India, and that was during pretty much 20 years. Yeah, pretty much the time when NLP was unknown. And he built that from scratch. Approach to NLP was very research driven, and often 20 years back, NLP wasn't considered very scientific or didn't have any empirical data around it. So faced a lot of challenges. But as like I said, he is an example of overcoming a lot of these challenges to spread the NLP in India. I mean, it's huge today, and a big part of it is because of Ashok. So I'm very excited for you, Ashok, to be part of this and to take this session. I will let you take this ahead now.
Thank you, Nishit. I've been thinking about the session since the last couple of weeks, and yeah, belief is such a simple stuff. Like everybody believes in something. But however, when I had to think about what to talk, because already there are a lot of materials, a lot of books, a lot of videos, and a lot of us know about beliefs. And so I was thinking what to talk, and then I started reflecting on when I started looking at beliefs as a subject or as a thing in me. Then from then on I was just going through my memory, and there was so much of memories and wisdom and ideas that was coming out for me. So yeah, so I have been reflecting and what kind of mistakes I have done, what kind of the opportunities I have got around working around beliefs, for myself and also with some other people. So I thought maybe today we will. I was thinking what can be the takeaway for people today who have all come up to this session, and I think I have got something on my mind, and I hope it's going to make some good difference in the way that you look at beliefs. So as I'm talking to you, this is new because I'm just talking and I'm not going to get any response. So I'm going to assume I have to make a number of assumptions that okay, people are happy, people want to listen more, people are enjoying what I say, and that belief just kind of frees me up. Anybody who's learned NLP, they have these two terms which they talk about. One is the limiting belief, and the next one is the empowering belief. So yeah, there is a belief which limits our potential, and there is a belief which empowers us to do something, just like the way I have believed that okay, you're all enjoying my session and it's going to be a great session, so it's kind of empowering. And yeah, limiting belief is something that puts us down. It's like I may not do it well, it's not going to work. So these two terms, every book has it, and yeah, but to really figure out which one of your belief is limiting and which one of your belief is empowering, And how do you actually pay attention to somebody's belief or your own belief? How do you catch that stuff which is working for you or which is not working for you? So these are all some of the challenges. I'll start with the story of how I become a trainer. How did I believe that I could become a trainer when I was very young? So I was doing my civil engineering in my college, and parallelly a few things happened. I studied in Gindi Engineering College. So one of the stuff which happened parallelly was I was working with a club called TQM Club, where I was learning total quality management. From as a extracurricular activity in my college. So that was one thing that I was getting on, and I was studying civil engineering. So I was with my professor, and after I finished my graduation around in the year 2000, um, he he wanted to release, he wanted to do a workshop, and I was the right hand for him. So I was the enabler, or who was the organizer for that workshop. So he would give me directions and I will do it. So he asked me to go to Hyderabad for a conference and get the code. We had a code in civil engineering which has the rules of how a building has to be built, and that code I went to receive it. And then we had to run a workshop on that code for all the engineers and designers from all across the country, and majorly South India, and all Chennai and all of that. So we did all this, and because I had a couple of years working in TQM, and that was of my interest, I was very excited to see what new changes had come in the TQM part of the civil engineering code. So when I got the book, I opened it and I looked at it. There were just 3 or 4 lines about total quality management. So I was a bit frustrated because when I go to my TQM club in Anna University, we have a library on TQM, and we had so much sessions and so much material on TQM. But in civil engineering, it was only 4 lines. So when I came back from Hyderabad, I went to my professor's home. My professor's name is A.R. Shantakumar. So I gave him the code, and then I told him that, after explaining my experience and all that, and finally I told him, I looked at the quality part, and so much is happening in mechanical industry, but for us in civil engineering, nothing seems to be happening. So I just blurted it out to him. And in that moment, what he did was, he immediately looked up and said, "What is happening in mechanical industry?" So I talked a little bit of what I knew. And he said, "Can you handle a session on this, Ashok?" I was like, "What?" He said, "Can you make it a session, what you wanted to present?" I said, "Okay." Because, he's my professor and I worked with him and I have great admiration for him. And he said, "Okay." And I said, "Okay." And I had to prepare the timetable. And in the timetable, it was so-and-so professor, PhD, will handle a session on this. So-and-so professor, somebody else, most of them are PhDs from IIT and all of that. And finally comes Ashok Subramanian, and I've just completed my BE, and I've just started doing my master's. So it's like MS and line above that. And the topic is quality. And when I had to go around talking to professors and inviting them and all that for the conference, they looked at this and they were a little shocked that it is me who has to, I'm also presenting a paper, because I was always known for extracurricular activities and not a very, very studious student. But they know that I am slightly, I can manage. So they asked, "What are you going to talk?" And I was like, "Yeah, TQM, this, whatever I knew, I was just telling." And finally, on the day of the workshop, just before the night, I was really sitting and breaking my head on what am I going to talk and how am I going to present this? Because I have lots of ideas, but I don't know what to do, So maybe after breaking my head for 2-3 hours, something flew and I started writing down. And then I went back the next day. And then after all the sessions were going on, when my turn came, I went and presented to a set of engineers from, all designers from L&T, HT, many companies. And then I presented what I understood about TQM and what I saw in civil engineering without much of any, technical reference. I just presented what I understood. And the the result was, I said, the paper is available, so I can always give you a link of that. And at the end of it, the session finished, and then L&T engineer came to me, and then I was like, I've expressed all my views, and I was standing, and he came and told me, this quality department in our company, they have been bugging us for the last couple of years with all these processes. But only after attending your session, I understood what they are trying to do. And I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't be even placed in NLP, in L&T. And, and the engineer coming and telling me this. So I was like, okay, it's worked. And then, towards the vote of thanks, I had my professor sitting, and I had one of the MNC's chief designer. He was sitting, and then he was from abroad, so it's a foreign company. So he was part of the workshop, the 2-day workshop, and he was also part of the vote of thanks giving ceremony, chief guest. And then as an organizer, I was sitting on one side. So after my professor spoke, this man, chief designer, he went and spoke about many things about each session, and he was telling what he liked. And particularly when he had to come to my session, because my list was there and the agenda was there, so he was looking at taking it one by one. And when it came, he just turned back to me and said, "Gentlemen, I learned something from you." I still remember that. Okay, and I was like, oh, and the whole audience were clapping. And then I was looking at my professor, and he was just as usual. He was not really taking any credit that I only suggested him or anything. He was just watching. And in that moment, something shifted, and I said, okay, I can say something, and that can be so appreciated. And maybe it was a belief forming moment that I can say something that I feel about what is going on around the world. So when I often reflect back, if my professor had not invited me that night to present a paper, then possibly I don't know if I've ever considered training as a career, as NLP as a field. But somehow he just noticed that spark that this guy is speaking something and he has the potential to do this. So it was his ability to spark and invite me into that. And obviously, more than what I knew, it was out of his respect I gave in. And then I brought back that. And from then on, I wrote a research paper on NLP also in the year 2001 after a lot of work. So I think all of this started with that moment. So that has always been a very, that I can speak. I can speak what I know. That was a very strong element, empowering belief that worked for me. So from then on, wherever I went, I spoke what I knew, and then I always expected people to be happy or to get some good feedback or to be appreciated. Something like that was my first moment of becoming a trainer. So I think most of us have such moments where we really jumped a little in our consciousness. We were able to go out and present something, or in a particular direction. We started moving in our life. So these are some moments. And then you have all those limiting beliefs. Some beliefs which doesn't work, and we still hold on to that. So I can give you one example of that from my life also. I grew up as an NLP trainer. I started after my college days. I went into the research paper to present in UK, and I moved it with Sue Knight, and I brought her back. Brought her meaning I invited her, and she was kind enough to come here, and we did a lot of courses and all that. And then I also was part of this company, Brain O Brain, which we were selling franchises for all over the country and outside. And so I had tremendous success with, I was in the business development. So I used to travel around and like a Vasco da Gama, go to new places and do stuff. So I had tremendous success with that as well. And at some point, I was in office in Delhi. Okay. And the winter was setting in. And already a lot of things have worked and for me, and I was feeling very successful as an entrepreneur and all that. And coming from South India, we have never bothered about this winters. Literally one or two sweaters will do for winters. Even just one sweater or even lesser than that will be okay for a winter in Delhi, in Chennai. And when I went to Delhi, and then I was in the Delhi winter was approaching. I don't know, because obviously I was a little egoistic or whatever. I told people that I can manage the winter without a sweater. Okay, because it's what is going to happen, something like that. And then I kept on that, and I never wore a sweater, And November was beginning, and people wherever you go, they used to say "Tand lagega, tand lagega." I'll say okay. But inside, yes, I can do it, something like that. And finally, one day I fell sick with a lot of cold and fever. And I was almost like, please get me out of this. And, winter was terrible for me. I really came to terms with the Delhi cold. And I said how foolish I could have been to think that I can do away with winter, which is possibly a belief that I had formed up in Chennai. Didn't work in Delhi, So, so what do I say? So I would say that the first point, or something that we would like to talk about today, the point that I would like to make is there are some beliefs which helps us to perform well, and some beliefs really pulls us down. Really can pull us down. So usually when you go for a seminar or you go for a motivation class, the trainers can motivate you, feel empowered, and you can say, oh, I can go out and do this and do that. But the reality doesn't end there. You have to come back to your life, and you have to play around with this belief. It takes a different level of awareness to play around with beliefs. When I was young, in my college, I got this book, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Okay. And obviously, I was studying that book, and I was starting to take things seriously. Okay. And I was trying to see whether they work. And there was this book called, one of the laws is law of giving. That which you give, you will receive. Whatever you give, you will receive. So I started playing with that. Actually, when one of my student friend, was not able to pay the fees, and I was looking at him, and then I said it was a summertime, so we were we had to pay the fees, and he couldn't do it. So what I did was I had a golden chain. So I told him that don't worry, you can take my golden chain. So basically that was coming from my sense of law of giving. It's like, if I give, it will come. Maybe let's give. So I told him, and then this guy told me back, Ashok, right now my fund situation is very poor in my family, so I will not be able to repay you at all if you pay. Just keep that in mind. It's going to be very tough. I said, don't worry, why to worry? You give me whenever you want, and fine, So I had a friend in college who is a worker. I mean, a man who works is a staff in college, and non-teaching staff. So I went to him and I said, we need some money for the fees. Can you get the thing, sold, or to keep it, to loan it for money? And then he said, we'll see how best it comes. So I gave him the chain. And then this guy came back and gave the money, and my friend paid this college fees. He was happy, I was happy, and all of that. And this chain was given to me by my grandmother. Okay, so it was little sentimentally attached also. And finally, I was waiting, and months passed, and there was a moment when we had to pay money for this chain. And I was looking for this money, and the money was not there. And this guy was very clear from the beginning that he can't make it. And obviously, it is my mistake, not his mistake. So I didn't ask him. But eventually, the chain was going to go. So I was like looking at this book, Law of Success. I said, what is this? Nothing is happening. To just experiment with the law, I've lost this chain. I can't tell my home also. So finally, the chain went away. I could not bring it back, and I was very angry. And I was like, what has happened? Has something gone wrong? Anyway, this was on one side, but on the other side, I was going to this British Council library because part of the TKM club, we had a British Council card where we can go and borrow books from the British Council for the club. So I used to go for that, and because I had a chance to learn NLP at that time from another trainer, Mr. N.C. Sridharan from Chennai, by accident also. That was by accident. So, but anyway, I did a 14-day course with him. So I was always keen to know more about NLP. So when I went to British Council Library, I went and I borrowed, there were only 2 books at that time. So I borrowed both the books and I studied. And out of that, one was, NLP Solutions by Sue Knight. Okay. So I read this book and something I felt attracted. And out of the 2 books, somehow I thought I should meet this lady. And I didn't know how and when. And I was only a student, so who could not even written this chain. So I don't know how I could go to UK and do all that. But nevertheless, I wrote a mail because there was an email ID and I had a mail ID because our college got internet at that time. So I wrote a mail saying to her, I enjoyed your book and I will someday make your training program, and I cannot. I don't know when, but I would love to be there, and someday I'll see you. Something like that. I wrote a mail to her, and interestingly, she responded back saying thank you very much, and she said, "Can you give me your address? I would like to send you a book." I was like, okay, the author has responded, so I gave her the address, and then I forgot about it, and 2-3 weeks maybe later, I received a huge package in my hostel room. And when I opened the package, it was a coaching manual that she has written, a new book. It's just such a big book. And she had sent that book and she said, Ashok, I don't know when you're going to come or when you're going to meet, but till then, I hope this is of use to you, and you got it. Then I look at the price of this coaching manual. I don't remember it now, but it was very costly. It was many times more than the golden chain that I lost. So suddenly I was caught with a lot of joy and happiness, and I said, somebody unknown has given me, that book. And then I said, after reflection, I felt on one hand, I lost something to help my friend. On the other hand, somebody who is not known to me has sent me something and I'm feeling joyous. And then it struck me. So the law of giving, an important stuff which I did not learn from the book is, don't expect it from the same place where you give. And that was like a light bulb which went in. So from then on, this belief started framing very strong. So I went around and, I said, okay, help more people. Then we'll see what happens. The universe will some form, it becomes the liability of the universe to hand over stuff, what is mine to me. Okay. So anyway, this was a very, it was a start of something. And, obviously I dreamt that someday there should be a good practitioner course internationally acclaimed that should happen in India, and I would like to organize it, or I would like to run it. But eventually we ended up organizing Sue's program, and we ran. So I wouldn't say that I thought so and it happened, but there was a lot of journey post that, and then but finally it happened. So these beliefs that you form, that you think, they definitely play a role. So, I could have just thought about it as a student, but it can go on. So to really, when we work with participants, now when people come to trainings, some of the biggest help that they take from the trainer is about identifying and bringing out some of their beliefs and challenging them on that front. Okay. So I'll share one example, and then we will go on. I have multiple threads now running in my head, but I hope I will catch all the thread. So I had this guy who was from Andhra Pradesh. He was a participant, and he was an English teacher, and who knows very good, impeccable English, but he can speak well, but he wouldn't speak before a lot of people, or he was a little shy. Okay. So anyway, he came to this practitioner course. We did it in one ashram near Hosur many years ago. And the first night, everybody arrived, and we were all sitting around and having our, welcome dinner from the ashram. And after we had the dinner, we were just getting introduced to each other. And there was a mango. And this guy said, this mango is Banganapalli. So this guy said, somebody asked, what is this mango? And they said, Banganapalli. And this guy replied, there is a song on this mango, Banganapalli, in Andhra Pradesh, which is his place. And I was there to, as a trainer, I was often looking at pulling people's legs, or, making it jovial or challenging people in different ways. And I noticed he is shy. So suddenly I announced to the group that so-and-so has offered to sing the Banganapalli song for all of us. And this man was like, wow, he became because he was just there and he got all the attention. And everybody said, yeah, very good, we'll listen to the song. And then he said, no, I can't sing. And we tried a few moments. And he said, no, I can't sing. And then, obviously, the pressure was on him. And, I had to relieve him from that pressure. Obviously, day one, he's there. We just can't push him. So we diluted the topic, and we went back to our dinner and other stuff. And we said, it's okay. And then we finished the dinner, and everybody was leaving. And he was also leaving back to his room. I went to him and I said, are you sure you can't sing? He said, yes. I said, how do you know? I said, I think I cannot sing. This was his statement. So I asked him back, do you think you cannot sing or you cannot sing? And he was just reflecting. I said, you have the whole night to reflect. You come to me tomorrow and tell me, is it you think you cannot sing or you cannot sing? And then I left him, and then he went back. So the next day morning, we had yoga and all that start, and we finished all that. And then he came back to me again at the end of the yoga, and then he said, Ashok, I thought about your question tonight. He said, yes, tell me. He said, it is not I cannot sing, it is I think I cannot sing. And I was like, wow. Okay, so you can sing, but you think you cannot sing. He said, yes. So we will test your thinking. Can you sing? And we will all tell you how it feels. And then so that we can check whether your thinking is right or not. He said, no way. I said, no way. Then, in the session, I told him that you have paid a lot of money to come for a course like this because you believed something is going to change for you. And you have traveled from far off to come from Andhra Pradesh to Hosur and thinking that something is going to happen. And now you come here, and then I challenge you, and then I ask you, and you admit that you may sing, but it's only your thinking. I said, if you can't face this now, if you can't break your thinking now, then when are you going to break it? I'm just asking you to try. And finally, this guy sang, and and he really came out of his shyness, and the whole group sang, and everybody was happy, and he broke that belief that he cannot sing. So sometimes, so to just point out that moment and put it as a challenge before that person in a very supportive environment is all it takes to break beliefs. I wouldn't say everything, but some beliefs are like that. So in some forms, just to put down as a note, I'm just, as I'm talking to you, I'm also reflecting on what I'm going to tell you today. So the first point is, initially it is a thought. And then it transforms into a belief. So initially, I'm going to be a bit chaotic in my writing down, but I hope you all can follow it. So initially it is a thought, because you think, maybe I cannot sing, and then if you don't challenge the thought slowly transforms into a belief. And once you believe, then anytime you say sing, you say not me, and you run away because you firmly begin to believe. So So it is, how do you, where do I see whether I have a limiting belief? How do I catch it? Because not many books give you that. Everybody knows there is limiting belief, empowering belief. I can break this, I can open up this, stuff like that. So yeah, so now as we also talk about beliefs, yeah, just because I believe everything will work, will everything work? Yeah, I don't think so. There's a lot of stuff. I'll also give you one more place where my belief literally didn't work. It just kind of, I fall flat. I'll give you, I'm just tell you, because what happens when you have a wrong belief or a belief that doesn't work with you, when you carry that, what happens? So I'll just give you an example of that. Okay. Yeah. So, I was a university team basketball player in my college time. Okay. I was a substitute, but I played for the university. Okay. So, yeah, we had, I rubbed shoulders with all the sports quota players who come into the university, and we were the people who were learning from them. I was traveling around, and we had great fun. We won a few tournaments. All that was traveling with them all over the tournaments was all very exciting time. So I always thought when I played basketball that I will not give up on basketball when I grow up. It will be my first love, or it will be my love all my life. So then I was caught up with my building this company, Brain, and I was completely traveling to different parts of India and outside India, and all of that in my effort to catch franchisees and launch centers and offer sessions on to common people, public. So we were doing all this, and a few years passed, and because of my constant travel, I was beginning to put weight. Okay. And I was a little hefty, and I was obese. I mean, not many believe that these days that I could be obese, but there was a time when I was obese. And yeah, one of the trainings, obviously Sue was coming back regularly to train us that time. So she asked me, what do you want? And, all that. And you're looking hefty, and, health wise, so you have to take some. So we were getting feedback on this, and I was getting feedback on this. So I said, what do you want? And one of the trainings I was thinking, what do I want? I said, I want to play basketball. It just came into my mind. And then I said, yes, that is what I miss. I have to play. It's been years. So I said, okay, you go and play basketball. So yeah, initially, when you want to follow up on a goal, it's not easy. So I bought the jogging shoes, I bought the track shoot, then kept months, went on. And finally one day I said, it's not going to work if I wait for a day. And today I want to finish this, because the next training program, at least you should say I played basketball, otherwise it doesn't work, So finally I was in Chennai, and again I went back to my university, and I just, I didn't have a proper attire, but that urge to play was there very strong. So I went around, I was there in the university, I went and met one of the staff and got a ball, and I got into the ground, and I was starting to shoot, and I was beginning to play, and I felt so happy that I could come back and play. My goal is achieved. So then, the next day I got all my tracks and everything on. I came back to play with my team, which was there available. And we were playing. And 2 days I went, and I played my hard game. And there was a moment when I ran fast, and I had to stop. And I stopped. And there was a little jerk in my knee. And my knee ligament tore. Okay. So I drove my bike with one leg. And then I reached back home, and I went to the doctor, and then he gave me all these things. Then I came back, and I was reflecting what went wrong, and what went wrong. Obviously I believed I can play, and I believed I had the ability to be fit. But what I didn't take into account is how much my body has gone beyond my spaces, that I didn't really think back. So sometimes if you have a belief that can really be, can really blind you towards reality. Beliefs can really blind you towards reality.